Okay, so let's talk about Smackdown from July the 30th, 2009. Before I start, please bear with me. I might be a little muddled. I have a fucking raging hangover, so, sorry. This show was quite good, I felt. I quite enjoyed watching it. I wouldn't have said it was a great show by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a very good example of how much better Smackdown is than Raw. Raw is a fucking disgrace at the moment. It's an absolute total shambles, and SmackDown is nowhere near as bad as that. It is moving in some directions I don't like, but it was quite good this week. You know, it was better than I was expecting, especially given the card. Anyway, we open with a Jeff Hardy promo, which, as far as I'm concerned, is never good because I think Jeff Hardy's promo is abysmal. Hardy, of course, gets an enormous pop. Fair enough. I still don't really understand what the point of Jeff Hardy winning the world title was. I thought that was totally the wrong decision, totally the wrong way to book it. That CM Punk had two pretty insignificant world title reigns now, and I don't think it's really done him any good. But this is what we're given, so we get some footage of after the pay-per-view broadcast from Night of Champions stopped, where Punk shakes Jeff Hardy's hand, and you know JR spills his normal, a lot of class there, you know. At which point it was really obvious to me that they were gonna have Punk do something later in the evening that was extremely heel-esque, and I was right. But yeah, Jeff starts talking and says, "If this is a dream, don't wake me." And I kind of wish it was a dream because this promo was like painfully bad. He thanks all of the outcasts, rejects, and freaks who have stood with him through thick and thin throughout the years. And I was thinking, by outcasts, rejects, and freaks, do you not mean young children? Because that's basically your entire fan base. Hardy claims that the world would be boring if everyone was straight edge like CM Punk. Makes references to his substance abuse again by saying that all he's high on is being World Heavyweight Champion, and everyone has the God-given right to live like we choose and be who we want to be. This promo's pretty boring, the content is not good, but more importantly, Hardy's delivery is completely pathetic. Like, he's the worst actor I've ever seen. It's absolutely shocking. The man has, I find it so ironic that his nickname is supposedly the Charismatic Enigma. The man has the fucking charisma of this bottle. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. He's ridiculously charisma-free. But everyone loves him, so, you know, the crowd are lapping this up. And he announces that he's defending the world title on this show against John Morrison, which is great. John Morrison's finally getting a world title match, and he deserves it. Hardy praises Morrison, but says that his last reign, you know, the one that lasted about 2 minutes, was far too short, and he doesn't plan on letting history repeat itself. And then claims that he and John Morrison might just be the most exciting main event in SmackDown history, which is completely implausible, but fair enough. And then, you know, at this point, you know, this promo had been running for quite a while. I was getting really bored with it. And I was expecting someone to come out. And I thought it would either be CM Punk, the man who Jeff Hardy won the world title from, John Morrison, his opponent for the evening, or Chris Jericho, the man who interrupts everyone. And then something completely baffling happened. Crime Time appeared for no reason. And I was like, why the fuck are Crime Time here? This is ridiculous. And then it transpired, somewhat to my relief, because I was worried that this was going to be some kind of Crime Time push into the main event storyline. I don't know. Apparently they just appeared to wrestle a match. I don't understand why they had to come out and interrupt Jeff Hardy. There was no explanation for that. Rubbish. And anyway, we have next Crime Time against the Hart Dynasty again. This match was terrible, largely. It's for the #1 contendership to face Chris Jericho and The Big Show at SummerSlam. And Todd Grisham comments, Todd Grisham, by the way, is a fucking moron. Todd Grisham is quite possibly the worst commentator I've ever heard. And there have been some pretty fucking bad commentators in the, decade, 12 years that I've hardcore watched pro wrestling. Grisham is probably the worst of all of them. He is fucking terrible. Anyway, he makes the point that Crime Time have been WWE sort of on and off for about 3 years and they've never won a title. They've never won a title because they're absolutely abysmal, Todd. That's why they haven't won a title, because they suck, or at least Shad sucks. This match starts out with Shad and David Hart Smith. The most boring way to start this match possible. Unsurprisingly, this is awful. It's really slow, it's really dull, and Shad, for someone of formidable size, gets no impact on any of his offense. It's like, my granny could hit people harder than that. My granny is 81 years old. It's ridiculous. I mean, no pace at all and no impact whatsoever. And I was just like cringing. It was offensively bad. Kid gets tagged in and goes straight after Shad's leg, screaming quite hilariously. Quite like that. And then JR says, "Oh, Crime Time achieved a tremendous amount of momentum on Raw." Momentum is a word that should never, ever be associated with Shad Gaspard, a man who moves at roughly the same pace as Mark Henry. Oh, ridiculous. The irony. JTG tags in, and while he isn't great, I feel really sorry for him when I watch him wrestle that someone as sound as JTG is given literally no scope to develop his skills because he's lumbered with Shad, who is disgraceful. So JTG comes in and is, quite good, and I feel sorry for him that he's lumbered with Shad, like I said. And Kid, there was one good spot in this match where Kid hit a really nice sprint. JR described it as a springboard blockbuster, which I think was a fair enough way of describing it. And it was really nice. It was really good. I think it'd be quite a cool finisher, actually. But JTG kicks out and then hits the shout out, which is that thing where he kind of spins around in the air and does like a takedown. It's basically his signature move. I was never sure if it was his finisher. I don't think I've ever seen anyone pinned after it before, but fair enough. Crime Time win to become #1 contenders to face Jericho and the Big Show at SummerSlam. And then Jericho and the Big Show come out, and apparently they now have new theme music as a tag team, which is the worst theme music I've ever heard in my life, because it's like supposed to be a mashup of their two theme tunes, but it's the worst mashup I've ever heard. I'm not talking like, this isn't like when back in the day the Corporate Ministry fused the Undertaker's theme music and the Corporation's theme music, which almost worked. At least you could at least tell that they'd tried. This is just the Big Show's music plays for about 5 seconds, and then it's like someone sat at a machine, a CD player, and just stopped the Big Show's music and pressed play on Jericho's at the same time, and then done that turnabout. It's ridiculous. Anyway, poor effort. And Jericho says that everything will be downhill from there for Crime Time. And just like the rest of the failures in the crowd, they're going to fall short of their goals because the most powerful duo in sports today will destroy them. Crime Time then interrupt them and try to be funny. They're not. He says that they look like Han Solo and Chewbacca, and then does a completely ridiculous Wookiee impression in an attempt to communicate with the Big Show. And then JTG starts talking, and is even worse at promo than Shad. This is some bad promo, folks. This is some really cringe-worthy stuff. And JTG says that the joke is, when Shaq was around, you didn't have too much to say, Christina. And blows him a kiss from Shaq. We get another Christina chant. They're actually trying to get this Christina thing flying. I hate this. This is ridiculous. Chris Jericho doesn't need this. Chris Jericho... It's fucking Chris Jericho. Crime Time say that they'll win the titles at SummerSlam. And then Show starts talking, which is also disastrous, and says Crown Time can only run their mouths because Show and Jericho allow them to, and he says that Jericho is the greatest all-round performer this industry has ever seen, which is possibly true, actually, and he says that he's the only man to have held the WWE, ECW, and WCW titles ever, and they have 40 titles between them, blah 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 blah, and he says that that makes him better than everyone in the arena. No, it doesn't, Show, and they're right. Shaq was right about one thing. You are fucking fat. Anyway, turn over to part 2, guys.